Hello, this is David, Fairly Secret Music. Today, I'm going to do a response to one of my subscribers. I think he's a subscriber, John Valatos or Valatos or something. He asked what my number one albums by bands in different genres are. So, or 100% albums. I just chose all the ones that I think are the best or my favorite in each genre. So I will start out, and this is going to go all over the place. So we'll start out with some metal or hair metal, and then go to a bunch of other stuff, and then back to metal again. It's kind of like how the order I have my thing set up in, except for the hair metal is at the end and whatever. My favorite like Christian metal band is Striper. Um, I decided I've been listening to Striper like crazy lately, so I would have a Christian metal genre. You could say King's X early on can be put in there, and I would, but I don't consider them. They're just kind of like genreless. Or they are the number one band in grunge, but I don't really think of them as grunge. So, Striper, Soldiers Under Command. I don't have the back tray for this, which irritates the shit out of me. I am looking for a copy that is complete or somebody to photocopy it and maybe get it to me. My friend Rob has it, and I've tried to photocopy it, but failed miserably with my printer, and I just got to bring it to a Kinko's. Favorite hair metal? If you consider Kiss hair metal, their first album is my favorite, but again, they're just like a straight ahead rock and roll band, which funny thing is straight ahead rock or classic rock didn't get added into this. Quiet Riot, their self-titled album with this guy, Paul Shortino on vocals, 10 times better than Kevin DuBrow ever as a vocalist. Oh, sorry, this guy, Paul Shortino. This album is just awesome. Favorite R&B album, especially current R&B, Beyonce Lemonade. This is an amazing album. If you have not checked it out and were ever curious about current R&B, this is the shit. I hope Jay-Z cheats on her again so she can do another amazing album like this. I'm not the biggest rap or hip hop fan, and I had like 100. I bought a ton of stuff and whittled it down from like 100 to like 30 or 20 or whatever. I still kept like the One Prof album, ASAP Rock, because I love his beats. A couple Atmosphere, all the Beastie Boys stuff. Christoph Crane, I kept the two where it sounds like the H.P. Lovecraft or the Cthulhu mythos of hip-hop and rap. But Beastie Boys Check Your Head is my favorite rap album ever, because not only do they play their own instruments, but they just... This is the longest standing rap album in my collection. Down in Peter Chattel's living room where the hi-fi is just right. And it has a bass line that can live rent-free in my head. Genesis, Fox Trot, 100% album. Oh my god, this is so great. Watch of the Skies, Timetable, Get 'Em Out by Friday, Can, Utility and Coastliners, Horizons, and Supper is Ready. There's not a bad track on this album. If you are wondering about prog rock, get Genesis Foxtrot. If you don't like this, just give up on prog rock, that is. Favorite fusion album? I didn't consider Gong when Pierre Morlon took over as straight up fusion, because I guess that first one, which was called Espresso, and then they later got a name change. I hope I'm in the frame. I'm using my phone and I can't even see what I'm videotaping. Or Bill Bruford's Gradually Growing Tornado. But I figured I'd go back to the roots of fusion and Mahavishnu Orchestra, The Inner Mounting Flame. The title track, Meeting of the Spirits, is Such an amazing album. I have no idea where my Birds of Fire went to. I have a bunch of shit that I have to put away. Just good old-fashioned jazz. Idris Muhammad, Power of Soul. He is the drummer. Most people have heard him play because he played drums on the Taxi theme song. I have to drink this water, else I'm gonna die. This water has been like actually sitting down here for like a week though. But this album, it only has 4 tracks on it, but he is amazing. This is a great album. If you want to listen to stuff where it's not too, I guess, for lack of a better word, jazzy, with a lot of good grooves, kind of funky, this album is fantastic. I didn't grab a funk or soul album, but the first Graham Central Station is fantastic for funk. Yeah. Jam bands, or, classic rock bands. Allman Brothers live at the Fillmore is fantastic. There is also an alternate version called the Fillmore Tapes. This is a different mix of the same show. The drums are a little louder on this. The guitars are a little more subdued. I go back and forth which mix that I like the best, but either way, awesome. Just awesome. And if you haven't heard Allman Brothers, besides, a couple, like maybe Whipping Post you've heard, In the Memory of Elizabeth Reed is fantastic. Favorite pop punk album? Allroy's Revenge. Scott Reynolds sings on this. He's the best singer, in my opinion, that All or Descendants ever had. This has so many just catchy songs. Listen to She's My Ex by All. That's all you have to say. Favorite singer-songwriter? Jay Buchanan. I love Springsteen, don't get me wrong. But this album I listened to so much that I started memorizing the lyrics, and it's a newer album for me. I got it within the last 5-6 years, and I get so much stuff that I don't really remember lyrics or song titles and stuff. This album stuck with me and is fantastic. The first 2 songs on here, Plans and 3 Times Colleen, just amazing. He has a song called American Sun that the lyrics are so good. You might know Jay Buchanan from the band The Rival Sons, and that's a good example for a what do you call it? For a kind of retro band. Rival Sons, Pressure in Time is fantastic. If you want something that kind of pulls that 70s sound and stuff, listen to the title track on here. New Wave. I think of the Cars as kind of a new wave band. So this album has nothing but hits. I mean, Good Times Roll, My Best Friend's Girl, Just What I Needed, You're All I've Got Tonight, Bye Bye Love. There's like 5 hits on this album. It's so good. It's so good. Favorite indie rock album? REM, Out of Time. It's kind of tied with this, but this one is a little bit above it. Counting Crows, August and Everything After is fantastic. But I have 3 versions of REM Out of Time. I have a 5.1 version. I have the remixed with the demos, and then the regular version. Favorite Neo Prog would have to be Misplaced Childhood. This is also my favorite album to listen to on a rainy day. The only bad thing about this album is it gets a little happy at the end, and that kind of disappoints me. Favorite instrumental prog is Universe Zero Heresy. There are 2 different versions of it. This is remixed with a 11-minute bonus track. There are only 3 songs on this. The first one is 25 minutes, the second one is 13:20, and the third one is 9 minutes shy of 13 minutes. The second song is called Jack the Ripper. And if you want to hear any idea of what this band sounds like, just listen to Jack the Ripper. Or they have a song called Dense. It's DENSE, I think. That is a fantastic song. Which version is better? I don't know. Sometimes the bass is more present on this version. I really like the remix. I know the bass player, Guy Seegers, who is in the wheelchair on the cover, who doesn't need the wheelchair, does not like the remix. So, you never know. Favorite singer-songwriter and odd collaboration, Robert Fripp and David Sylvian. Who would have ever thought these two would have gotten together, really? They did an album called The First Day. This is a live album called Damage that pulls songs from David Sylvian's solo stuff and their studio album. It is so good. It has Robert Fripp on guitar, David Sylvian on vocals, Trey Gunn on Chapman stick, or I think he was still playing the stick at that point. Pat Massalotto, the drummer who's in Crimson now, he was also drummer for Mr. Mister. And then they have Michael Brook on infinite guitar, which is a lot of like very ambient kind of guitars. Favorite Canadian rock band. So I decided to take Rush out of the equation, and there's a bunch of metal bands from Canada, Voivod. But this is probably one of my favorite Canadian rock albums. It is Tragically Hip, Up to Here. Is that Up to Here? Yeah. And this was the album that got me into them. It's also a 100% album. There's not a bad song on here. Just awesome. There's a line on this album that says, "She makes love hard like an enemy." I love that line. Yeah. Favorite black metal album. They're still considered black metal. They're kind of more pagan black metal. Primordial Wilderness Gathering. Whoop. Sorry about that. This album is fantastic. The production is a bit too muddy for me in spots, but when you listen to it on a good stereo or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's just so good. It's probably their best songs. At least maybe that's because it's the album that got me into the band. Best, like, kind of apocalyptic doom or apocalyptic metal, and Neurosis has to be the band. I love the Sovereign EP. I love a bunch of their other stuff, but this one is the one that I kind of gravitate towards. Just the first song alone, Prayer and An Offering. Are those? Yeah. Prayer just builds and builds and has so many layers of vocals. It's so fantastic. Favorite technical death metal album? Death Human. It is the album that started all of it, basically. It's not quite as technical as Individual Thought Patterns or Cynic's Focus, but just the players on this album, everything is just so fantastic about this album. They basically were pushing the boundaries of death metal, and you can't even say how great this album is. There's 3 doom bands, and I think they're fairly different, so that's why I have 3 different doom albums. Go back to one of my favorite and my first doom albums, Epicus Doomicus Metallicus. What was his name? Johann Lindqvist's vocals on here are just so fantastic, especially on Blackstone Wielder, just amazing. Some people don't get into Candlemass because of the vocals. Actually, the next album is the same way. But I thought they did a great job filling Johann's place with Messiah. Messiah is a fantastic vocalist. I wish they could work it out because, you know, I think they were at their best. And my stupid AC is going to come on again. So I'm going to start. Although Johann is on the newest one. Confessor, Condemned. Holy shit. Take a technical band who plays doom and a singer that goes, wah! And listen to, well, you can't really even find anything from this album. There might be if you type in Confessor Condemned, you might get one of the demos on YouTube. That's the closest thing to finding anything online from this album. My Dying Bride, Line of Deathless Kings. This perfectly takes the death metal stuff, the doom, and kind of shoves it together. Angel in the Dark River is still fantastic, and actually that one probably should be in place of this, but I think Aaron's vocals ended up being a lot better by this album. Favorite prog metal album, Fate's Warning, Perfect Symmetry. Not only do you have Mark Zonder just kicking ass on drums, Ray Alder is fantastic. The guitars, both the guitarists basically bring their A+ game, and Joe DiBiase or DeBias or however you pronounce his name is so fantastic on this. It's like a 5-man perfection. There's not a bad song on this album. Favorite thrash album, Forbidden, Twisted into Form. This is one of the ones that I go to. It was between this and Hellstar's Nosferatu, because I was talking to Darcy about that recently, and it's just so good. But this has so many elements that I love, like the vocals, the drumming. Paul Bustoff actually plays closed hi-hat on a lot of it. So awesome. Favorite Japanese metal band. You got Loudness, you have La Arc-en-Ciel, you got Lunacy, but Dead End were just my favorite freaking band. This is a weird cover. Ghost of Romance is great. It has a lot of awesome songs on it, but there is something about Shambara that just kicks so much ass. I covered hair metal, but for classic rock, and we can throw them in there for like classic 80s rock or whatever. Night Ranger, 7 Wishes. Such a great album. The title track alone is worth getting it for. Just awesome. The only thing that I don't like on this whole album really is Goodbye. There's something about Goodbye. Maybe it's because it makes me sad about the time. I don't know. This was the album. I bought it on vinyl. I had basically at the Great American Music right next door, they had this on vinyl, and then there was the Dark Side from the Superpowers action figure. I had enough money to buy either an action figure or a record, and I chose the music and haven't really bought toys ever since. So Seven Wishes basically made my musical like journey possible, kind of, I guess. And one of the greatest, I'm gonna put them in the grunge category. I'll move this. This is Mindfunk's Dropped album. This is 10 times better than all the other 90s grunge stuff. And you had Jason Everman, who was in Nirvana and Soundgarden in the band. Apparently they hated each other or didn't get along during this. But this, if you have not heard it, it is Mindfunk Dropped. Bloop, bloop, bloop. So that is my list of genres and favorite albums for genres. I probably missed a couple. But this is probably a pretty long video anyway, and I haven't done a video for a while, so I figured, okay, there you go. Have it. Bye.